Drag Race loves a gag, but the most controversial moments, they don't stay on the runway. One episode can flip a fan favorite into a villain overnight. One decision can rewrite a season while it's still airing. And sometimes, the biggest shock isn't what happened on camera, it's what happened after the credits, when careers were on the line. Today we're breaking down the moments that split the fandom, forced the show to respond, and changed what Drag Race history means. When people say controversial Drag Race moment, they usually mean a fight, a meltdown, or a lip sync that went sideways. But in this video, we're going deeper. These are moments that either changed the competition in real time or created real-world fallout that followed queens long after the finale. We'll stick to what's been publicly reported and clearly documented, and when something involves allegations, we'll say so. No rumor mill storytelling. Because Drag Race isn't just a TV show anymore. It's a platform with a loud fandom and instant receipts. So when a moment explodes, it doesn't just trend for a day, it can reshape careers, seasons, and legacies. And by the end, you'll see why some controversies never really end online. Sherry Pie disqualification mid-season, Season 12. On Season 12, Sherry Pie was edited like a frontrunner. She was loud, polished, and constantly in the conversation, the kind of queen the show builds into a character you can't ignore. Then, while the season was still airing, multiple public allegations surfaced that the performer behind Sherry Pie had used fake identities online to manipulate people into sending explicit videos. The story moved fast, and the backlash hit faster. What made this different was timing. Drag Race couldn't just wait for a reunion episode or a post-season statement. New episodes were dropping weekly, and the franchise was suddenly attached to a scandal unfolding in real time. Production responded, Sherry Pie was disqualified from the competition, and the remaining episodes were re-edited to reduce her presence as much as possible. You could feel it in the pacing, confessionals missing, story beats abruptly shifting, entire arcs redirected. For the other queens, it was brutal. Their season was now being discussed through someone else's headline, and they had to keep promoting the show while fans argued about what should happen next. For the franchise, it set a precedent. Drag Race has always thrived on drama, but this wasn't drama. This was harm, and it demanded a different kind of accountability. And for viewers, it forced a hard reset, separating the fantasy of the edit from the reality that people can be hurt off camera long before a queen ever steps into the workroom. Season 12 did keep going, and the spotlight shifted where it belonged, onto the finalists and the cast who showed up and competed. It also reminded everyone, the crown is entertainment, but accountability is real, and the show can't edit that away for long. Willam, one of the most debated disqualifications, Season 4. Willam's disqualification in Season 4 is still one of the most argued over exits in Drag Race history because it happened right when she looked unstoppable. On the show, RuPaul announces that Willam has broken the rules and she's sent home immediately. No lip sync, no second chance. The other queens looked stunned, like the floor dropped beneath them suddenly. It's framed like a clean, decisive production call, but the controversy lives in everything that wasn't clearly explained on camera. Viewers were left with a big question. What exactly counts as a rule worth an instant disqualification? Over the years, Willam has spoken publicly about the situation in different interviews and appearances, and fans have compared those comments to what the show presented at the time. That gap between the official on-air explanation and the broader conversation outside the show turned the moment into Drag Race folklore. And it also changed how the audience watches the competition. Because once you've seen a queen removed without a lip sync, you start noticing the invisible structure, contracts, production boundaries, and the rules that aren't always spelled out in the workroom. For Willam, the aftermath became its own storyline. She stayed visible, stayed booked, and stayed outspoken, often leaning into the controversy rather than running from it. So the Willam DQ isn't just a twist ending. It's a reminder that Drag Race is a TV competition with real limits, and sometimes the biggest drama happens off the main stage. The Vixen, the reunion walk-off that sparked bigger questions. Season 10 reunion. If you want a moment where Drag Race stopped feeling like just a show and started feeling like a public courtroom, it's the Vixen at the Season 10 reunion. On stage, the tension that had been building all season boiled over. The conversation wasn't just about shady comments or who said what in Untucked. It was about how conflict gets framed, who is expected to stay calm, and who gets labeled too much the second they react. As questions piled up, the Vixen made a choice that shocked a lot of viewers. She stood up and walked off. For some fans, that read as refusing accountability. For others, it read as self-protection, choosing not to perform pain for an audience that had already decided the story. Either way, it exposed something Drag Race doesn't always say out loud. Reunions aren't neutral. They're produced, they're edited, and they're shaped around what the show thinks the audience wants to see, and because race was part of the conversation, directly and indirectly, the fallout got even heavier. The discourse wasn't just team this queen versus team that queen. It became a wider argument about tone policing, provocation, and why. Certain queens get less grace in the fandom. The Vixen later spoke publicly about her perspective, and the moment has aged into a kind of litmus test. Not for who you liked, but for what you think the show owes its contestants when the stakes turn personal. Quick breath. If you're into deep dives like this, hit like and subscribe, because the next controversies get even messier and the receipts get wilder. Valentina, Mask Gate. Season 9. Valentina's Season 9 lip sync is controversial for one reason. It felt impossible. Not that she struggled, but that she didn't do the one thing the show requires. She walked into that lip sync in a full fantasy, gorgeous makeup, perfect styling, and a mask covering her mouth. And when the song started, it quickly became clear she didn't know all the words. Then came the line that turned into instant Drag Race history. Ru told her to take off the mask. Valentina didn't. In a competition where lip syncing is the final exam, refusing to remove the mask read like refusing the exam itself. For fans, it was a whiplash moment, a beloved frontrunner suddenly looking unprepared, and then seemingly choosing aesthetics over survival. The debate exploded immediately. Some people saw it as delusion and entitlement. Others saw it as panic, freezing in the worst possible moment, with cameras everywhere. Either way, the stoppage made it feel bigger than a standard elimination. It became a cultural meme, a fandom argument, and a reminder that Drag Race doesn't just test talent, it tests nerves under pressure. Mimi Imfurst. Drag is not a contact sport. Season 3. Mimi Imfurst's most infamous moment came during a Season 3 lip sync against India Farah. In the middle of the performance, Mimi grabbed India, lifted her off the floor, and carried her across the stage like a prop. It was shocking, and not in a good TV way. The judges' reaction was immediate. Drag Race lip syncs are chaotic, but they're not supposed to be physical. That's why the phrase "drag is not a contact sport" became the takeaway, a clear boundary drawn on the main stage. For fans, it raised questions about safety, consent, and whether desperation can make a queen cross a line. And for Mimi, that one choice eclipsed everything else she did on the show in that season. Sharon Needles, post-show allegations and legacy collision, Season 4 winner. Sharon Needles won Season 4 with a brand that felt fearless, horror, filth, satire, and a willingness to push past what mainstream Drag Race had crowned before. For years, her win sat in the canon as proof that weird could win. Then, post-show, her legacy collided with serious controversy. Over time, multiple public claims and reports circulated about inappropriate conduct, involving a fan who was underage at the time. Needles publicly denied wrongdoing, but the conversation didn't stay theoretical. Bookings and public perception shifted, and the debate around her name became less about drag style and more about accountability. Other queens and commentators addressed it publicly, and some venues distanced themselves, especially as social media amplified the backlash. What made this especially divisive is that Drag Race fans had to separate two things that used to feel linked: talent and legacy. Some people argued that art should be judged on its own. Others argued that a crown doesn't insulate anyone from consequences, and that platforms carry responsibility, especially when power dynamics are involved. And because Sharon's persona was built on provocation, the discourse got messy fast. People started asking where edgy ends and harm begins, and whether the franchise should treat a winner differently when serious allegations enter the picture. In the end, the controversy didn't just change how people talked about Sharon Needles, it changed how fans rewatch old seasons and how the Drag Race universe wrestles with complicated history. So yeah, Drag Race controversy isn't just drama, it's careers, contracts, fans, and real people on the other side of the screen. Some moments became memes, some became warnings, and some forced the show to change how it protects contestants and responds to harm. But the reason these stories stick is simple. Drag Race reflects culture in real time. And when culture argues, the workroom feels it first. Watch, enjoy, but remember, The crown is glitter, and choices are forever. Thank you for watching, always.